Wow, look at that. Another packed room. This is so incredibly exciting. We got some very rowdy guest speakers here. Apparently, I'll be introducing them in a second, and you can identify them by name. Listen, this has been just an incredible start to a conference. First of all, getting to be back together in person again after 2 years. I mean, I think that was enough to make many of us giddy. But we recognize now fully that we have a real significant amount of momentum here in the nuclear industry, driven because of the leadership of industry, the support and involvement of select provinces in Canada who recognize that nuclear and small modular reactors are going to be an important part of meeting this net zero future that we're all aiming for. And I think the combination of that leadership by the provinces and industry has resulted in a breakthrough with the federal government. We saw with the introduction of the budget for the first time an unequivocal commitment to investing not only one-off investments in technology, but investing in the entire ecosystem with the understanding that if we can work with a healthy ecosystem, with a federal government that understands its role vis-a-vis the provinces and industry, and if all of us can work together, we can make a significant difference in terms of reaching that net zero future. So in the context of this momentum and the leadership of the provinces and industry, it is tremendously exciting to see a next step in that with this announcement today of Moltex and SNC-Lavalin announcing the formation of a partnership to advance the development and the deployment of Moltex's nuclear technology. Very exciting development. Well done. So my role here today is pretty simple. We've got a number of speakers, and so I'm not going to go through the bio of each one, but fortunately I think every person up here is identifiable and well known as either a leader in the nuclear industry or a political champion for the nuclear industry and what it can do for our future. So I'll just list off the names for you. I'll take a seat. We're going to have some remarks. Each speaker will introduce the next speaker, and then it will be my privilege to direct questions and answers. So starting at the far left here with Rory Sullivan, who is, of course, the CEO of Moltex, followed by Sandy Taylor from SNC-Lavalin, Minister Mike Holland from New Brunswick, Minister Todd Smith from Ontario, Keith Conkright, and Ken Hartwick from OPG. So, Rory, I guess over to you.
Thank you, John, and good afternoon. Bonjour tout le monde. First off, I want to thank the Canadian Nuclear Association for hosting this fantastic conference and trade show and for incorporating us into the event at the last minute. I'd also like to acknowledge that we are making this announcement on the traditional unceded territory of the Anishinaabe Algonquin people. I'd also like to acknowledge that we are making this, I'm grateful to be working in New Brunswick on the traditional unceded territory of the Willistic, Mi'kmaq and Pasquotumigauti people. Thank you to Ministers Todd Smith and Mike Holland for making time to be here with us today. Minister Holland, you've travelled from St. John to Ottawa on only a few days' notice, and so we are continually grateful for your support. We're here to mark a pivotal moment for Moltex and SNC-Lavalin, the formation of a strategic partnership that will advance the development of new clean nuclear energy technology. Technology that can help stop climate change and minimise nuclear waste and generate large quantities of affordable energy for Canadians. Moltex's goals are ambitious, and to achieve them, we need partners with deep expertise and extensive experience in delivering energy projects on time and on budget. Partners like SNC-Lavalin. As a fully integrated professional services and project management company with offices around the world, SNC-Lavalin will help ensure we are successful. will now be able to draw on their worldwide and world-class network of experts in engineering, licensing, construction, and operation planning. This arrangement secures SNC-Lavalin as our deployment partner right through to construction and operation. As part of the arrangement, SNC-Lavalin staff will be joining our New Brunswick team, creating more jobs in New Brunswick, and will also be using their existing expertise already based here in Ontario. SNC joins our existing partner IDOM, a European nuclear engineering firm with over 4,000 staff in 125 countries, who have been a great support to date and one of our early investors. Moltex is very fortunate to have a committed first customer in MB Power. In 2018, MB Power selected Moltex from over 90 applicants to develop our technology in New Brunswick, with the goal of building and operating the first-of-a-kind reactor next to the Point Lepreau generating station. And since moving our head office to New Brunswick, we've been met with tremendous support, from most notably from the province and the federal government, but now also from an industry leader. This further demonstrates that MB Power and the federal government made the right choice selecting us. So we thank you. This is an exciting time for the industry. Just last week in the federal budget, the government made it clear that nuclear was part of Canada's decarbonisation plans, as John mentioned earlier. It was an acknowledgement that net zero needs nuclear. Very exciting. Among several policy statements, there was 70 million allocated for small modular reactors, specifically including research into waste reduction. One of the most appealing features of our reactor technology is its ability to recycle spent nuclear fuel. In doing so, it can reduce the amount of long-lived waste by up to 99%. This could be a game changer for the nuclear industry. In New Brunswick, nearly 90% of residents support recycling waste at Point Lepreau so it can be used to generate clean electricity. Nuclear waste is the Achilles heel of the industry. By recycling it, we're reducing the environmental impact of nuclear power and making it easier for the industry at large to succeed. The Nuclear Waste Management Organisation is making great strides advancing their deep geological repository. This is really important work the industry needs, and we'll continue to work with them and support them. So we're looking forward to building our first reactor in New Brunswick, but success for us is really about a significant fleet rollout across Canada and around the world. Our future fuel is sitting in storage at every nuclear utility around the world. Waste owners internationally are already knocking on our door asking when the technology will be available for them. There's a huge market for potential for this. Excluding hostile nations, the waste around the world can fuel 120,000 megawatts of carbon-free energy from our reactors that would be powered for 60 years without importing any new fuel. We can create this here in Canada and be a global leader in helping the world address the nuclear waste challenge and tackle climate change. SNC-Lavalin's selection of Moltex as its partner is a resounding endorsement of our nuclear technology, but more broadly, it demonstrates the confidence that forward-thinking companies have in small modular reactors as a viable path to a low-carbon economy. We're very proud to have SNC as our partner, and we're looking forward to many years of partnership together to progress this breakthrough technology in Canada. I want to finish off by saying thanks again to Minister Smith and Minister Holland for being here today and showing your support. Thank you to my team for your hard work and dedication, and to the SNC-Lavalin team. Thank you to Julianne, Bill, Sandy, Joe, and the rest of the team for seeing a worthy partner in us. We won't let you down. Merci. So now I'll hand over to Sandy Taylor.
Thank you, Rory, and hello to the room, and thank you for joining us today. It's a pleasure to be here representing SNC-Lavalin at the Canadian Nuclear Association Conference, and having been here a number of times before, typically there is some various different exciting announcements, and yet again this year I think we're seeing again exciting announcements. The strategic partnership between SNC-Lavalin and Moltex is great news for a whole number of people. It's good for the people of New Brunswick, it's good for the people of Ontario, and it's good for the people of Canada. I'm very excited to be part of a collaboration in the design, the engineering, and the licensing support for a made in Canada advanced nuclear technology that can do a number of things. It can use recycled CANDU nuclear fuel as a fuel source. It can reduce the footprint of Canadian nuclear waste, and it can contribute to Canada's quest towards net zero using innovation for clean, safe, weather resilient, and secure sources of domestic energy. Last year, SNC-Lavalin released a report called Engineering Net Zero, examining what Canada needs to do to get to net zero carbon emissions by 2050. Moving away from fossil fuels is a must. It means we need to electrify transportation. We need to electrify commercial and residential heating. We need electricity for heavy industrial processes, to name a few sectors. All this will require a massive increase in electricity supply. In our calculations of Canada's journey to net zero, Canada will need up to 2.5 to 3 times the volume of electricity generation that we have today. Meeting this challenge requires an all-inclusive approach to clean energy, including solar, wind, hydropower, carbon capture and sequestration, to name a few. But in our view, there is no path to carbon net zero without safe and reliable nuclear power. And we see stable baseload nuclear power complementing and enabling intermittent renewables. We also see that new nuclear in Canada includes not just a single technology, but multiple, including micro and grid scale SMRs, advanced reactors, as well as additional large-scale nuclear reactors. The strategic partnership between SNC-Lavalin and Moltex brings together the unique capabilities of our respective companies. With the ingenuity, innovation, and entrepreneurialism of Moltex, combined with SNC-Lavalin's unique Canadian experience with more than 60 years of global nuclear expertise as the OEM of the CANDU reactor. SNC-Lavalin's CANDU expertise and projects experience brings design, licensing, major project execution, and life of asset support both domestically and to the export markets. SNC-Lavalin's nuclear business is approximately 3,000 professionals strong and can lean on the larger company for additional capabilities and resources if and when the need arises. Additionally, we have access to hundreds of patented solutions and are the only company and reactor designer to have a reactor technology be approved through the Canadian Nuclear Safety Commission's technology review and licensing process. This combined capability of Moltex and SNC-Lavalin significantly increases the probability of success in the development and delivery of a made-in-Canada Generation 4 advanced reactor, which could be deployed locally and eventually internationally. And certainly, Rory, I like the idea of deploying a fleet of these reactors around the world. Building on the existing CANDU nuclear capabilities in Ontario and New Brunswick, the engineering, design, and project management services that are part of the Moltex and SNC-Lavalin strategic partnership will add another element of capability and excellence in both provinces' respective power capabilities, nuclear power capabilities. We see Moltex's innovative technology as highly complementary to that of Canada's deep geological repository, which will store nuclear byproducts safely and securely. The Nuclear Waste Management Organization continues to shepherd this vital work looking forward, and they will continue to have our full expertise, our full support. While there is no ribbon cutting ceremony today, and while we're not drawing back a curtain to unveil a fully furnished advanced reactor, I am highly excited about announcing our partnership. I'd like to thank the province of New Brunswick and Ontario and their respective utilities, New Brunswick Power and Ontario Power Generation, and the Canadian government for your vision and your support in driving this innovative solution to harness the energy from spent nuclear fuel from our CANDU reactors while reducing the spent fuel footprint. I'd like to thank you for the time, and I'd like to best wishes to your team, Rory, and certainly to Julianne's team as we drive forward the latest frontier in homegrown Canadian nuclear innovation. With that, now I'd like to pass the microphone to Minister Holland.
Thank you very much, Mr. Taylor. It's a pleasure to be here today. Bienvenue et merci pour ton invitation à parler avec nous aujourd'hui. It's a pleasure to be here to stand and give a few remarks. I would like to make mention we have Minister Bronwyn Eyre with us from the province of Saskatchewan, strong supporter of the nuclear industry and one of the original signatory provinces on the MOU that we signed in December of 2019 with Ontario, Saskatchewan, and New Brunswick. Appreciate you being here very much. I wasn't going to be here. Rory managed to run into me at another event last week and said, can you be in Ottawa next week? And I said, probably not. And then thought, no, I want to be here. I want to come. And we've worked very hard to support Moltex with all of their initiatives. So I felt like it was important to move some things around to get here. And after being here for a few short hours and walking through this facility and seeing what's going on, I'm so glad that I actually took the time to make sure that I could be here. I'm here to give congratulations to SNC-Lavalin and to Moltex, but it's very clear after walking around here for a short period of time that the nuclear industry is alive here in the country of Canada, and we need to be very proud of that. It's something that we should all go back to our respective jurisdictions and to our respective companies with an excitement and an enthusiasm to continue to drive that agenda to see those goals realized. And those goals, the front end of that is talking about that partnership with SNC and Moltex. And I'm very proud to be the New Brunswick Minister of Energy here, talking about the work we're going to do with a technology that we selected to be built on the footprint of Point Lepreau. And I think we need to talk a little bit about the, absolutely. You see, we wouldn't be in this conversation if we have to look at the past to see as to why we're here today. In New Brunswick, we chose to forge a path towards building a nuclear footprint in the province of New Brunswick in the 1970s. We went live with that in the 1980s. Nothing controversial about nuclear in that period of time in the history of nuclear in North America. You know, the leaders that decided that that was a path that we needed to go on need to be congratulated for the vision and the foresight that they had. There was no conversation about SMRs. There was no concept that we'd be standing here today having this conversation. But you know what? Because of that vision, that foresight, and that continued effort despite criticism and opposition, we have been generating electricity from nuclear in the province of New Brunswick since 1983, and it positioned us so uniquely to be able to say that we could step up and plant our flag in this sector and become a world leader. So I'm very proud of the fact that we forged that path. Us and our friends from Ontario, swam upstream to be able to put that footprint in place, and the country and the world is going to benefit because of it. Right now, the province of New Brunswick generates over 81% of its electricity from non-emitting means, with nuclear generating almost half of that. We have proven that we can do this in a safe, affordable, and reliable fashion, and with a generation of history under our belt, we're ready to move into that next stage. And that next stage involves the vision of companies like Moltex, SNC-Lavalin, seeing that vision and partnering up with them, a government in the form of New Brunswick, and I know I speak for my partner here in Ontario as well, full well willing to step into that and make that vision a reality. We know where we've been, we're here in an exciting spot, and we really can't wait to see where we're going to wind up. So thank you very much for inviting me, and congratulations, and I'm so proud to be a part of the next chapter as we go forward. Thank you.
That's okay.
I have to give an official introduction to the Honourable Todd Smith, Minister of Energy from the province of New Brunswick.
Thanks, Mike. It's amazing that a guy from the Miramichi managed to work swim upstream into his speech.
Every time.
Yeah, just like the salmon do. Anyway, it's great to be here with all of you today, and It's the first time that Mike and I have been able to be together. We've been virtual for so long. I'm actually a New Brunswick boy, so I feel like this is yeah, exactly. There's a lot of New Brunswickers here. My mom and dad are actually constituents of Mike in his riding in Albert County, New Brunswick, and I know they vote for him because I told them.
I got two.
Told them to make sure. Anyway, and it's also great to see Bronwyn here as well, Bronwyn Eyre, the minister from Saskatchewan. We've been working together for so long, it seems like, to get to these points where we're having these celebratory events, and congratulations to both Rory and Sandy and your teams on today's announcement. You know, we were in Regina with Bronwyn just a couple of weeks ago and announced our joint SMR strategic plan, and our provincial partners from Alberta and Mike virtually joined us for that event, and it was great. The plan represents our province's combined vision for growing Canada's economy and our clean energy future through the development and deployment of the small modular reactors. And we know, and everybody in this room knows this too, that SMRs are a game changer for the energy industry. They're going to provide a source of safe and reliable zero emissions energy to power our communities and help Canada and the world meet our climate goals. It's with our robust nuclear supply chain and experienced nuclear operators that we have in this province and others that we're uniquely positioned to make Canada a world leader in this next evolution of nuclear technology. Canada can take pride in the leadership role that we're taking in SMRs, and certainly Ontario is proud to be developing Canada's first commercial grid-scale SMR. It's expected to be completed before the end of the decade, right, Ken? At Ontario Power Generation's Darlington nuclear site. And today's announcement is just another example of the expertise that exists in Ontario and across Canada, and the exciting progress that's being made when it comes to advancing SMR innovation and development and deployment. As I always say when I get a chance to talk about the SMR technologies that are being developed here in Canada, the world really is watching. The world is watching what's happening here in Canada and what we do next. We know there's a renewed interest globally in nuclear technology, and this is our opportunity to export made in Canada technology and our expertise around the world. If we continue to work together like we have been over the last couple of years since that first MOU was signed by the provinces back in 2019, we know that we can continue to push the envelope when it comes to nuclear innovation and the economic and environmental opportunities that it represents for our province, our provinces, our country, and really the entire world. So thanks, and I'll introduce a fellow New Brunswicker now. But it's been great to be here and participate in this. And again, congratulations to SNC and Moltex on today's announcement. I'll hand it over to Keith Cronkite, President and CEO of NB Power. And Keith, just before I give you the podium, politician here. My first tour of a nuclear facility was as a Boy Scout at Point Lepreau in 1983. Can you believe that? Now here I am, the Minister of Energy, developing SMRs in Ontario.
Very good, thank you. Yeah, thank you. Bonjour tout le monde, good afternoon. You know, Ken and I just finished up with a panel discussion in the main conference room, and the one thing that was obvious, and I think you folks are seeing it over the last day and a half, and you'll see it the rest of the day and tomorrow, is that we violently agree that nuclear is part of the solution for net zero by 2035, and certainly net zero by 2050. We know what the solution is. Now, how do we make it real? We make it real through partnerships. Partnerships like SNC and Moltex, partnerships with our First Nation communities, partnerships with industry. You know, Ken and I and Mike Renchek from Bruce Power, as well as our counterparts in Saskatchewan, SaskPower, and counterparts in Alberta are all aligned that nuclear is part of this path forward. I have not seen in my career, experienced in my career, that the alignment between utilities, provincial governments, industry is all coming together. And together, we will succeed. Partnerships, being open to new structures, bringing new partners in is going to be absolutely key to be successful. and key to moving forward at the pace we need to move forward at to make this real, and real in the very near future. So we look forward to continuing our relationship and looking forward to new partnerships. We have the solution. We agree on that. Now we got to make it happen. Thank you very much. Yeah, I can't forget my duties here. To my other partner, Ken Hartwick with OBG. Thank you.
Thanks, Keith, and really I want to congratulate Moltex and SNC for the partnership and working together. I can say certainly, Roy, you picked a great partner. If we think about our path on our Darlington refurbishment, SNC is one of our core partners, and they really are a partner. And I think that's important that you have that relationship with them. So I'm really excited because as long as they don't get distracted from our refurbishment, I'm really happy for you. So it's but no, and I think on that, and Keith touched on this. This is a very unique industry where everyone in the nuclear industry tries to help everyone else be successful, because the success of the industry, of each individual company within it, is the success of all. And that's something I think we are very, very proud of, every one of us. All the provinces, all the utilities that represent those provinces, and hopefully new provinces that come and join the party along the way. So, like I say, we are committed to help Moltex be successful where we can. Obviously with SNC, working a lot with them on many things across our company, and we're really excited to have this advance, because I do think we need multiple of these technologies. We need these successful, and to what both ministers said, it's time for Canada to lead. There is no reason for us to take a back seat to anybody else, and I think this is going to be a great example of how some of this leadership is done out of New Brunswick, is done out of Saskatchewan, is done out of Alberta, is done out of Ontario, and it's an exciting time. So congratulations, thank you for inviting me, and I'm very, very happy, and I'm sure we'll be dealing lots with each other over the coming years. Thank you.
So I'm happy now to help direct questions from the floor, if there are any. And of course, it would be great if we could prioritize any questions that have to do with the partnership, and then if there are other ones that relate more broadly, because we've got an incredible selection of leaders here, then we can move to those. So are there any questions? Never done one of these press questions before. Did I do something wrong?
I'm coming to
Minister
Ontario
Smith?
all the time.
It's not usually like this.
I'm going to get started an auction here. Who wants to ask Minister Smith about? Okay. Well, I guess that wraps it up. Well, we do have a question over here.
To Moltex and to Sandy, thank you very much. So next steps. How fast is this going to move forward? We got deadlines ahead of us. We got 7 3/4 years to get to 2030. So what do you see when we walk out of the room?
You start, I think like any project, I mean, it goes to how do you plan the work, what do you need to get done in what time frame, and how do you plan it, how do you resource it. So very much when I look at this, and I look at Julianne, because I get to talk, Julianne actually does the work, is very much about, okay, what is it that we can realistically achieve, pushing ourselves, stretching ourselves, but also not setting expectations that are above what the market would expect as well. And so for me, it's very much right now about still planning the work, getting the work plans and the deliverables, and then just managing it as we would any other project. I would say any other project, but certainly managing it. It is a project. Thinking about it that way.
Sandy said a lot of time has gone into planning. It's all detailed planning now of the next phases. But we're a bit different to the other SMRs. We've got 2 mega projects, the waste recycling facility and the reactor. So we're looking at early 2030s is when we're looking at being online. So the waste facility first, in line with the first SMRs, and then the reactor after that. We're not ambitious enough to do both in parallel. So it'll be the waste facility and then the reactor.
Okay, we have another question over here. Maybe if we go through questions here, you could just introduce yourself quickly.
Hi, I'm Jill Baker. I'm with CNA. I have a question for the ministers. It's not about yoga. We're good. I was just wondering, like, there's like you said, provinces and other parts of the world are watching us. What advice would you have for other governments who are contemplating decisions about whether or not to invest in SMRs and writ large nuclear? Like, that's a big decision. What advice would you have for those who are watching what you guys are doing?
Yeah, home court advantage, you go first.
Oh, you want me to go first? Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, we're busy spreading the message that nuclear is going to be the answer to helping them reach their targets. And obviously Ontario and New Brunswick are leaders because in Canada, because we've been the nuclear generators for the last 60 years. And it's great to see, provinces like Saskatchewan now making decisions to eliminate thermal energy and coal-fired generation and looking towards SMRs, while at the same time in their own backyard having a very plentiful supply of uranium, which is really important to not just Canada's generators, but also the world. So, I know in talking to Bruce Power folks who aren't here today, I mean, $2 billion is going to Saskatchewan for uranium. Our country is well positioned with the expertise that we have and the resources that we have to be those leaders. And I think, one of the things that we have going for us here in Ontario with the other project that's not being celebrated today is that we do have first mover status. We have the CNSC certification for the site at Darlington. We have the environmental work that's already being done. And, we expect and hope to have this online by 2028 for the world to see. And the world really isn't just watching. The world is stepping up and signing on. And, we saw it just before Christmas when Synthos Green Energy from Poland came in, signed the Memorandum of Understanding with BWXT to manufacture parts for the SMR, the BWRX 300 in that case. But I think the thing that we're celebrating here today is that there's going to be different options in the size of technology that's available. We've got a 300 megawatt that we're talking about and working on at Darlington. This one will be a different technology that may have different applications that will fit different scenarios depending on the jurisdiction or the customer that's looking to eliminate emissions. So I'll let Mike take it from there.
Well, building on that, I think that from the very beginning of the Memorandum of Understanding that we signed in December of 2019, we had three provinces that came together, Ontario and Saskatchewan and New Brunswick. The two generators of nuclear energy in the country, and then the province that has the significant resource as it relates to uranium. Since then, we've seen it expand, and there has been another province added on with Alberta. I recently toured another province's energy department to our facility in Point Lepreau. And when we set the stage back then, we said there is always an empty seat at the table for other jurisdictions to come and join us, because we truly want this to be a pan-Canadian approach for a couple of reasons. One, obviously everybody that's sitting at the table, there's some form of benefit to them as it relates to either decarbonization, economic development, whatever the case may be. But in addition to that, the more provinces that join on, and the more industry players that we represent, the stronger that voice becomes when we all work collectively and collaboratively with the federal government to make sure that they see this is truly something that is of significance, growing and spreading across the country, because quite frankly, we do need the federal partnerships, we do need the federal support, and we are fulfilling federal mandates as it relates to the reduction of emissions. We just happen to have an industry that's significantly poised to be able to do it. So when we set this up, we set it up to be able to make it expansive, to make it grow, and to send a strong message that this is truly going to be a Canadian initiative. Now, something else I noticed is that I was at that signing of that original MOU, and the media questions from that date, that was the day when SMRs came on the scene, so to speak, on a national level. And it was interesting to hear the media questioning at that point up to and including now, because what the CNA's done, what our Pan-Canadian MOU has done, and what our partners have done as it relates to the SMR proponents themselves, is that we have embarked upon something that has educated the country as well, and there's a significantly higher level of question now coming. I mean, essentially, you couldn't fault someone for saying, what does SMR stand for 5 years ago? And now we're getting into conversations where with Rory's technology, and we're getting into the Watts reactor, the discussions about molten salt, and the level of technicality from the questions is at a significantly higher level, which is very exciting because it means we're bringing along the country and they're watching this grow from concept to ultimately reality. So I think that's ultimately the advice I'd have for other provinces. We have an empty seat at the table. Pick up the phone and call us.
Yeah, go ahead, Desiree. Yeah, hi.
Thank you. Desiree Norwegian, Tanda Incorporated. We're listening to the keynote speaker at lunch, knowing that Indigenous inclusion is such a big part of this, and knowing that the acceptance of this going forward is going to be such a big part. How do you see from the provincial side, how do you make sure that the building capacity is there and equity participation is there?
Do you want us ministers to answer that? Yeah, okay. It's these guys that are actually doing a lot of the work on the ground.
That's true.
They're the ones that are doing a lot of work on the ground, but we've obviously set the tone. I know in the case of Ontario Power Generation, they've done an outstanding job at getting in early and working with partners from First Nations, and there's a lot of support. I know with the Williams Treaty folks, and I don't know, Ken, if you want to take it. I mean,
Sure.
you're the guy that's doing the work.
No, I think a big part of it was including, in our case, Williams Treaty, which is the group of First Nations, into that conversation. So I think they will be an equity partner. They are part of how we are building capacity. And I said at the prior session, the biggest part in that process is actually listening, not talking. And the more we do that, the more I think the Williams Treaty Group is coming into this conversation in a very, very constructive manner, because I think what gets misconstrued is that they don't want to build infrastructure, don't want to build nuclear. It's not actually true. They would express it as, we want it built the right way. And that's where I think, with the support of the province, in our case in Ontario, and our mandate is let's build it the right way, and we'll be great partners for them.
I'd add to that, echo the sentiments of Minister Smith that our utility is doing a significant amount of work. But further to that, the proponents of nuclear in New Brunswick are taking on a significant leadership role as well. They recognize that this is their technology that they will develop, and they will ultimately be able to transcend borders and drive all over the world. So they've recognized that responsibility to rights holders and have worked very well. From a provincial perspective, I'm also responsible for fish and wildlife, forestry, mining, and of course energy. So everything I touch in some way, shape, or form has a First Nations component to it. And there's a Stephen Covey principle that says, if I am to be understood, I must seek first to understand. And so I've found that principle walking into these conversations, and I've been very transparent that I don't have the history, don't have the knowledge, but I do have that respect and come to the table with the desire to get it as information so that it can be incorporated into everything we do. And it's very crucial to make sure that we maintain that. And you notice at lunch that the keynote speaker talked about generations. First Nations, the one thing I have learned is that they think in generational terms. The 7 behind us and the 7 in front of us. And so when I think about First Nations interactions, regardless of equity, regardless of partnerships, regardless of whatever role is played, they're looking towards where 7 generations are going to be from now. And if I touch something, whether it's forestry practices or whether it's dealing with the fur, fins, and feathers of the province of New Brunswick, I must make sure that we do something that's sustainable, ecological, biodiverse, and will do honor to those generations that aren't even here yet. So that's essentially the holistic approach that we take.
Yeah, and I would just add that I think one thing for us to be proud of is the fact that, I talked about partnerships earlier and the recognition that First Nation communities are absolutely part of that. Right from day one in our plans and working with Moltex and in New Brunswick was making sure that there was early engagement, early conversations around this opportunity. How do we work together? What are your interests? And how can we synergize those so that we can be successful together? Because we know we need to do that. So that's been right in the foundation of this effort, certainly in New Brunswick, to move forward, is those types of conversations and how can we work together. So something that we're proud of. It wasn't an afterthought. It was actually part of the original foundation, as it should be.
Okay, not seeing any more questions. May I just, once again, we can together perhaps congratulate Moltex and SNC-Lavalin. Rory, Sandy, and your teams, congratulations. Thank you to our industry leaders, Keith Conkright and Ken Hardwick, and to all of you from the industry for being here. And thank you very much to our ministers for your continued leadership in this important area. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.